Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Poetry Festival's reading of interfaith poetry. So, first, before I begin, I would like to congratulate Poetry Festival for its 10th anniversary. I think that's a huge milestone, especially in this age of, everything that's fast-paced with ChatGPT, AI, and so on, right? So I'm saying that because we have a few poets from the IT sector today, so you're going to hear from them. So first, let me introduce myself. So I'm Migs Bravo Dat. I'm a novelist. I have a couple of books published by Penguin, but more importantly, I'm a poet. So I started as a poet here in Singapore. So I'm honored to be your host today. And as a font of meaning and consolation amid uncertainty, faith has long provided rich inspirations for the poetic imagination. This reading gathers spiritually infused verses to showcase creativity across faiths. Faith Unbound celebrates Singapore's thriving religious communities. And we were just talking about that, while waiting for the time. And in today's session, we actually have 9 poets from 9 different religious communities. So we have an excellent lineup. And without further ado, let's start. So our first reader is our dear friend of the Poetry Festival, Ms. Shilpa Dixit Tapulial. Shilpa is a former computer professional turned bilingual poet from Singapore and author of 2 poetry collections. She is also a Best of the Net and Pushcart Prize nominee and was awarded 2nd place in the Letter Review Prize for Poetry in 2022. Her poems can be found in the PRNTA Journal, looks like Prata, Quarterly Literary Review Singapore, To Let the Light In, The Letter Review, The Best Asian Poetry 2021, Yearbook of Indian Poetry in English, and elsewhere. Some of her poems have been translated into Japanese, Chinese art, and also Spanish. Shilpa is a writer and literary organizer who serves on the steering committee of the Poetry Festival Singapore. Friends, let's all welcome Ms. Shilpa Dixit Tapulial.
Thank you, Migs, for the very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to be here, to be representing my faith here, and to bring my poems to you all. The poems which I'm going to be reading are tied because they both are, they were written when my mother-in-law was unwell, seriously unwell, battling a terminal condition. And we were just coming to terms with it because she had just visited Singapore and she went back and soon she had fallen sick. So it took us a while to understand that she will not be with us. So this is for her. But this is the poem which she, on her perspective, from her perspective, it says, At Peace. Krishna's hymn floats across the Yamuna. Notes from his flute tug at the soul to be one with the divine. Each shrub in the path, every swell of the waters echoes the lyrics. Seagulls pause, fluff feathers in unison. Waves arch and curl, unhinge gates to heaven. Across hundreds of miles, her supine face lights up. This dusk is a harbinger. She looks up to see vivid images swaying to the melody. Her lips upturn at her mother's nose ring, deflecting the setting sun, the brother's shoulders and her father's limp. Their embrace is inviting. She eases into her pillow. The full moon parts the clouds, unveiling the golden staircase. Thank you. And the second one is from the perspective of us, where as we understand that it is the parting hour and we have to say goodbye to her. So, Ma, this is for you. We stand with our backs to the south. We stand with our backs to the south, palms folded in obeisance. Northeast is the direction of gods. Mist cages our eyes. We offer leftovers of ourselves. Mouth our vowels in unison. Our dances are left incomplete. We cannot unsee what we see. We tie our smudges to parcels of offerings. The chariot of Yama blazes through the skies, and we succumb to the stars. We wait for the canvas to drip sunlight into our lives, because dawn is yet to arrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa, for that moving poem. Wait for the canvas to drip starlight into our lives. Such memorable line from Shilpa's poetry. Now, we move on to our second reader, which is Mal. Malminderjit Singh is a corporate affairs consultant, former journalist, published author, and community volunteer. He is the chairman of the Sikh Advisory Board and wrote spiritual poetry under the moniker Significant. Terra, An Eternal Journey is his anthology of 50 poems published by Ethos Books and launched in 2019. Most of all, and I like this part, he is a loving husband and father to 3 loving children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mal.
Thank you, everyone. The part about the loving husband is indeed true. Today is my wife's birthday, so I just left her to come here. So I make sure I have to go back with a bunch of flowers afterwards. But let me read some of the stuff I've written. So this was published and written, this book, Terra, by Ethos Books in 2019. I used to write Instagram poetry, one of those guys who just dabbled on Instagram, and then someone said, look, why don't you put it together? A lot of what I've written is from my view as a Sikh. So a bit about religion, a bit about spirituality, and a bit about identity as well. So thank you. Thank you so much. Right in. Okay. So this one, it's called The Treasured Gift. And the background to this is I was often asked by people, by friends, Sikhs and non-Sikhs alike, the meaning of wearing the turban. Why do Sikhs wear turbans? And so it started an introspection, and that introspection then turned a bit more, somber when I realized that what it actually meant. I didn't know as well what it meant initially, so I'm glad that this exercise forced me to also examine why I wore it. So here's my thoughts. I hope you appreciate it. Your treasured gift sits pretty on my head, away when I drift. These 6 yards bring me from the dead. Virtues I do not have, pride to you, how do I bring? But yet, with your form, how can I let you down? You are the only king who bestows upon his subjects his crown. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Short and sweet, and also memorable. Thank you, Mal, for that wonderful reading. Now we move on to our fourth reader, Mr. Jitu Shah. Jitu is an integral member of the Singapore Jain Religious Society and has been practicing spirituality since 2005. He enjoys singing as well as the fine arts. Friends, let's all welcome Mr. Jitu Shah.
Okay, this poem is in Gujarati language, but I don't know whether they have prepared the subtitles or not. Otherwise, I'll just read subtitle also. The poem is called Goodwill Prayer. Maitri bhavano pavitra jano mujhe yama vahya kare. May the pure stream of loving kindness continue to flow through me. Subhathao va sakala visvano evi bhavana nitya rahe. May the prayer of universal goodwill be unending within me. Gunathi varela gunijana dekhi hayyu maru nritya kare. May my heart dance at the sight of virtuous noble ones. He santona charana kamalma mujhe jivanno artya rahe. May the essence of my life be in the footsteps of such saints. Deen krur ne dharma vihona dekhi dilma dard rahe. May I be filled with compassion for ignorant and underprivileged. Karuna bini aankhon mathi asru no supas totra vahe. May my eyes be filled with pious flow of tears of compassion. Marg bulela jivana pathikne marg chindva ubo rahu. May I be there for those who are lost from their path. Kare upeksha e maragni toye samta chitta haru. May I have equanimity to be with those who ignorantly avoid the path of purity. Chitra banuni dharma bhavana haye saum manav lave. May all beings bring this goodwill to their heart. Vere jerena bhav tyajine mangal gito he gave. May all be free from impurities and sing the lyrics of this goodwill. Maitri bhavano pavitra jarano mujhe yama vahya kare. May the pristine stream of loving kindness continue to flow through me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jitu. That was so soothing. I could listen to that all afternoon, right? Yep, indeed, may the prayer of universal goodwill be unending in all of us. Now, we have Mr. Jess Velasquez from Baha'i as our next reader. So Jess is a father of two, a change maker, an educator, an arts advocate, a peace practitioner, a world citizen. Born and raised in the Philippines, educated in the field of medicine, worked in Kazakhstan 30 years ago, right, Jess? And in India prior to settling in Singapore. Friends, let's give it up to Mr. Jess Velasquez.
Hello, good afternoon. So just to provide a context of my poem, this is actually inspired from the story of Mona Mamonizad, who is a Baha'i, and she was imprisoned along with 9 women, and including her mother. And Mona was actually, despite her young age, she was very active in community building activities, and she was a children's class teacher. So This is actually during her last moments in the prison, where she asked that she would be the last one to be executed, so that she could pray for the other women who were executed before her. And so when it was her turn, she kissed the rope with a smile on her face. In the silence that echoes before you kissed the ladder from above, the noose destined as your crown hastened to the glory of reunion. The denizens on high have gathered round, joy written over the radiant brows. With open arms they cheered, anticipating your majestic entry, ready to proclaim loud in chorus, all hail the angel in Shiraz. In the silence that echoes when you raised your hands to heaven, for strength of the 9 breaths before your whispers faded, all of them women, resolute in faith, and their love sorely tired, tried and tested, saw the messenger of joy their death, yet singing their way to true haven. You've seen the land turn red, and the ground beneath was shaken at the thick of the night, as their shadows were lowered one by one. Still in silence, you stood tight, 100 or 1,000 more lives to be taken. In your sight, they are all heaps of dust forsaken on the path to the exalted. In the silence that echoes from the cold air of prison, when you ease those wounds, comforted the cries of daughters and their mothers, even your own, the sighs that riveted on the walls, the agonies laid on the floor, vanished by your indomitable spirit, bemused those who bore your flesh, those who call you a disgrace, or those who hurl their spit at your innocent face, fumed more hatred and rancor. In the silence that echoes, liberty is a divine gift, etched in bold letters in your heart, flowed out from your crimson ink, unleashed its fetters in the cramped pit. 'Twas the rising to the moon your soul yielded, and your heart mourned, you penned. This gift is for us also, but you don't let us have it. Why don't you let me speak the truth? Why don't you let me speak freely? That a new radiant star has risen, why don't you push aside that thick veil from your eyes? In the silence that echoes, the fate of children you hold dear upon your tender shoulders, planting seeds of love, a grime in vain, service to humanity in train, the cause of unity. Your faith, the only crime against the power seated in tyranny. In the silence that echoes, a speck of breath enough to kindle the innermost fire hidden in the hearts of men, raging like 1,000 trumpets blast across, ringing in all the worlds of creation, and throughout all the ages. Its symphonies can be heard. Its murmurs are the sweetest melodies. The angels scatter abroad. The fragrance of every breath gush out from those lips, where in silence, yet faith is born. Where in silence, courage is awakened. Where in silence, love has blossomed. In silence, I hear the echoes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for reminding us about the beauty of silence where infinite possibilities can happen. For our next reader, we have Master Adrian Long. Adrian was ordained as Taoist priest under the Zhengyi doctrine in year 2012. He is currently volunteering his service with the Taoist Federation Singapore, committee member of various Taoist Temples Association and community organizations. He has also been involved in delivering religious-related dialogue and talks in various racial and religious harmony events. He currently holds a full-time job in an information technology company. So I think he is our third IT poet today. So friends, please welcome Mr. Adrian Long.
Good afternoon, everyone. In fact, this is my first attempt to do a poem. Okay, I've been reading scriptures from chanting and reading scriptures itself, but this is my first attempt. Actually, to be frank, I also rely on my technology skills, trying on the ChatGPT. Okay, but do pardon me if I have mentioned something not that perfect, but this is my first attempt. Okay, some background of Taoism. I think a lot of people may not mistaken that Taoism is just go to the temple and pray to the deity and all that stuff. Actually, Taoism way back to 4,700 years ago. In fact, the scripture is actually produced by this famous philosophy named Lao Tzu. So he actually bring it down, and then subsequently, as the years goes by, we formalize this into a religion aspect. So today, what I'm going to recite is based on my feelings and also the study which I've gone through. I put into some of the key points, and I actually produced this poem itself. Okay, the name of the poem is The Tao Embrace. In the quiet whispers of the dawn, where shadows bend with light, the Tao flows gently, ever on, embracing day and night. Amidst the swirling mist of doubts, where certainty is scarce, the Tao moves softly in and out, a gentle guiding faith. Like water through a river bend, it yields, yet never breaks. In every twist, a chant of man, a path the spirit takes. In the heart of stormy seas, when waves crash wild and high, the Tao embrace is calm, at ease, beyond, beneath the troubled sky. For in the flux of constant change, where nothing stays the same, the Taos remain both near and strange, a softly whispered name. It teaches us to find our peace in every rise and fall, to let the striving cease, and hear the Tao call. For in the dance of joy and pain, of loss and sweet delight, the Tao is there, a quiet gain, a beacon in the night. So, when the world seems cold and stank, and clarity is lost, remember, in the deepest dark, the Tao absorbs the cause. In stillness, find the endless flow. In chaos, find the way. And in the Tao, let wisdom grow to guide you through the faith. Thank you.
So my favorite line of Adrian's poem is this: to find our peace in every rise and fall. So I think that's a very good reminder as we head towards, for me, a very busy week ahead. And I guess it's relevant in this highly fast-paced world, of course, driven by the IT sector. Okay, for our seventh reader, actually, this is six because we sort of juggled the sequence a bit. For our sixth reader, we have Mr. Oyong Waikit. Waikit is an educator and writer who has edited 4 poetry anthologies, and his writing have been featured in QLRS, Tiger Moth Review, and elsewhere. He holds an MA from the University College London, and he is a recipient of the Outstanding Youth in Education Award by the MOE. Formerly the president of the NUS Buddhist Society, he serves as youth committee head of Po Mingche Buddhist Temple. As a founding board of the Center for Interfaith Understanding, he serves as an interfaith harmony advocate in the Bukit Timah Harmony Circle. Friends, please welcome Waikit.
Thank you, Mix. Right. I was just saying to Master Adrian, right, and our interfaith friends that we must have coordinated, right, like 心有灵犀, right, we say in Chinese. Yeah, synchronicity of our minds. So yes, welcome and thank you for joining our interfaith reading. So I'll be sharing 3 pieces, and this first piece, Meditation at UT Park, is from our anthology From Walden to Woodlands. So if you might have heard of it, and just a shout out to Ethos Books, which also had a booth, right? And I was inspired by the practice of mindfulness in Buddhism, like the practice of meditation, which can be really so powerful and helpful in promoting our emotional, mental well-being, and not just for Buddhists, but really for everyone. And one of my most treasured experiences would be, well, meditating, especially in our local parks, which I think are quite understated. So in my case, it's UT Park. So I like to think that the silence of the woods is also a kind of music in that sense, right? Silence, right, in that sense. So here's meditation at UT Park. Watch closely. The world is always sharper, subtler, or more elusive than recollected. When you shut your eyes, you distill the morning's faint light into the radiant current of now. Exhale and hear. The soft purr of the breath resonates with the hesitant whispers of swaying ferns, interrupting the rain of subliminal silence. The overhanging canopy breathes in tandem with the rustling wind. Unclamp the mind. You harness the power of silence as you release the flotsam of stray thoughts, scattered like the snipped twigs that carpet the earth. The density of your mental foliage empties into the stillness of the sky. At last, against the iridescent glow of daybreak's reflection upon dew-soaked leaves, a largesse of calm fills the fabric of the woods. Arise from your quiet triumph or solitude and rest in invisible, indivisible emptiness. Okay, that's the first one. And this second poem is inspired by the Metta Sutta, which is the Buddha's discourse on loving kindness. Metta meaning loving kindness in Pali. And it prompted me to think about all the ongoing crises that we're facing today, of course, right? And I think we really need kindness more than ever. So this piece is entitled A Metta Moment on the Metta Sutta. You hear a quiet cry from the veritable past, almost drowned by the artifices of the world. Yet, marshalling the sparks of wisdom to burn with the heat of truth, this voice makes ideals acutus at their waning. Images flicker on the screen. You try to avoid glancing at the faces of enraged demonstrators, spitting words of hatred, their brows contorted with fury, their voices dripping with bile, and their lips leaden with wrath. What happens when self-righteous indignation festers into monstrous self-assertion? There is no fine print here that excludes you. There is no hidden clause that permits undisclosed exceptions. There is no disclaimer that prevents the full and unconditional applicability of these provisions. But when the tinders of doubt smolder with suspicion of the other, how shall the flames of dissension be quenched? How can faraway sympathizers, divided by distance, avoid the savagery of indifference? The treasure of maternal love marks the final sacrifice. But between the intimation and the evocation, the conception and the expression remains the abyss. How can we extinguish a bigotry fueled by digitized disgust? How shall we let go of the guilt of common witness while avoiding apathy in the face of affliction? How should we embrace the reality that we are but children of our zeitgeist, subjects of technicolor dreams? And yet now you run, stumbling and bleary-eyed after a humbler vision to soothe the plaintive cries of a hungry infant and heed the call of that quiet cry to delay an ideal's soft vanishing. Okay, now I think it's time for something a bit more lighthearted, okay, at this point. So let me just finish with this final poem. All right, and this is an imaginative reconstruction of what it would be like if, well, imagine if we brought the Buddha himself to Vivo City, which is Singapore's largest shopping mall. Walking with the Buddha at Vivo City, he strolls along the atrium while I lead the way. Clearly, he enjoys walking. Not so much because of the space or the strong gusts of air conditioning. He just revels in his gentle, joyful steps, his robe soothing the ground as he ambles. A few shoppers turn and stare at him, but then they go on their way. And moving up the escalator, I beckon him to follow me, but he stands still, watching the ascending stairway in amazement before he steps delicately onto it. We turn into Toys R Us, his eyes scanning the stacks upon stacks of Transformers, action figures, and Barbie dolls. After some thought, I decide to get a chess set for my teenage cousin. I explain she likes the king and queen pieces the best. He peers at it. He smiles, sure. But after the game, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. Enough with toys. I bring the Buddha to Giant, the hypermart, and we wander up and down the aisles as he surveys the 20 kinds of bread and the 30 types of jam. And at the meat counter, the hair on his bare shoulder stands on end when he sees the packets of flesh wrapped in cling film. At one point, I lose sight of him. Searching frantically from aisle to aisle in this labyrinth of plenty, I scamper around in a panic until I catch a glimpse of Saffron. He is inspecting a tacky hamper filled with abalone and champagne, crowned by a can of Buddha jumps over the wall. I mutter sheepishly, I hope you're not offended. He beams, oh no, don't worry. There are too many walls in this world. It is good to jump over them. Our final stop is Best Denki, where we survey HD TV sets, radios, blenders, and reading lights. In the end, I choose none of it, and so we make our exit to wait for our Grab car to arrive. And I think aloud, should I have bought that 3M polarizing light reading lamp because it was on offer? And he gazes kindly at me, and he remarks, be a lamp unto yourself. Thank you.
I think it's high time we book a visit to Vivo City. Thank you, Waikit, for that wonderful poems. For our next reader, we have Liren Gold. Liren is a Jewish working mother an Australian-Israeli expatriate who has built a home in Singapore's multi-ethnic tapestry. Liran is a leader in the field of security and psychology and currently manages regional security programs at Google. Liran identifies as an advocate, ally, and DEIB, which stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. She recognizes the power of spoken word to bridge divides and amplify minority voices. I think we see that during the Poetry Festival quite a bit. She believes that Singapore's interreligious organizations and initiatives safeguard the racial and religious harmony of the country and provide catalyst for deeper understanding and empathy across diverse communities. Today, she will recite a couple of poetry as a testament to the shared humanity that transcends borders and beliefs, celebrating the richness that emerges when diverse voices unite in a chorus of compassion, understanding, and connection. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Liran Gold Isaac.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here on the same stage as so many incredible poets. I've been very moved by all the words that you've shared. So I am a Jewish woman. If there's anybody in the audience who has never met a Jew before, I'm happy to be the first. We are a small, very small community here in Singapore, but a thriving community. And I'm amazed by the events that are put on, the interreligious, interfaith events. If you ever are looking for a Jew to have dialogue with, to have a discussion with, please reach out to me. I'm happy to do that. When I was choosing what to read today, I'm no poet myself. I'm just an appreciator. I was trying to think about what would convey the feelings of the community at the moment. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of conflict. So instead, I decided to center a couple of poems that are based on the idea of tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. And it's something that unites many of our religions, that we are the light unto the world. We are the ones that will retain hope even in dark times. So that is what I will share with you today. The first poem is called This Precious Life by Alden Solovey. Look beyond the broken sky, cracked by a blaze of sorrow, to the edge of the universe, where stars dance in endless spirals. There is nothing as small as an angry mind, and nothing so large as forgiveness. There is nothing as wild as breathless love, and nothing as free as your soul. Look beyond the life you know, yearnings for sign of truth, to the gleaming edge of faith itself, where holiness sings to the willing heart. This next poem is called The Joyous Soul, also by Alden Solovey. Let your soul shine in your chest. Let your heart sparkle in your eyes. Let joy fill your limbs with radiance. Let love fill your hands with splendor. You are the instrument of God's music, the tool of repairing the earth. You are the voice of wonder and awe, the song of hope and tomorrow. Thank you.
You are the song of hope and tomorrow. That is so powerful indeed, Lira. Thank you for that. So for our next reader, we have Jonathan Chan. Jonathan Chan is a writer and editor. Born in New York to a Malaysian father and South Korean mother, he was raised in Singapore and educated at Cambridge and Yale universities. He is the author of the poetry collection Going Home, published by Landmark in 2022, and he's the managing editor of poetry.sg. So you can find more of his writing at this website. It's written over there. So friends, please welcome Jonathan.
Hello, good afternoon. In case it's unclear which faith community I'm representing, it's neither the Malaysian faith or Korean faith or Singaporean faith community. I'm here in my capacity as a Protestant, a little cousin of Catholic Felix over here. I currently worship at a Methodist church, but in past places where I've lived, I've attended a vineyard church, an Anglican church, and I have friends from various denominations. It's a really beautiful experience to be here, listening to everyone read across faith traditions. I think not always easy to be a person of faith. There's so much that is demanded of us in terms of surrender, the need to surrender, the need to kind of commit oneself to certain rituals and certain routines, the willingness to kind of, submit to a kind of unknowing mystery. In as much as all of us have some kind of communion with the transcendent or the sublime or the divine, there's also an extent to which we can never really fully know or fully comprehend the nature of that divinity. And I like to think that's something that's shared across all of us from different faith communities. So the first poem I'll be reading for you today is a poem called Prayer 20. And it's from a series of poems that, I've been writing on and off for the last, maybe 7-8 years, engaging with this idea of prayer, maybe principally understood through a kind of Protestant tradition, this idea of prayer as communion or coming into the presence of the divine with God. This idea of prayer as an opportunity where it's not so much about asking God to change the world for you, but asking God to change you so you may become an active force in the world. How the Spirit enters you and transforms you more and more into something that is a reflection of the character of God or the character of Christ. And this particular poem is a longer poem, inspired in part by the late Singaporean poet Mervyn Mirapuri. A really astounding story if you haven't heard of him. Migrated to Australia, wrote for many years, and when he passed away, his children found stacks of manuscripts by his bed and in his cupboard. And one of those has been published here in Singapore posthumously. It's called A Walk with My Pig. And this poem is also inspired by the Polish poet Anna Strzynska. So it's a bit of a long poem. Prayer 20. After Mervyn Mirapuri and Anna Strzynska. Good morning. The earth says shalom. The dark begins to get into your eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, disinfecting a plastic tongue. It compels the ingesting of a psalm a day. It compels the winding drive around a field, vitality still wound, silver moonlight felt on blades of grass. It compels the bodies to lurch toward the floodlights, you versus you, God versus me. A throng fights its way over highways and bordered paths of mud. Condensation diffuses into sweat. A Sunday breaks into hazy clouds, curling into purple and blue. Incarnation is a daily practice. You leave a church to break a ritual language. Praise God who turns our grief to light. Heat rises from beneath the crust of the earth. The slabs of concrete warm the centers of your palms. Salt is crusted on the skin. Your head throbs too hard to recognize its wilderness. Walking in the carnal heat, a muscle twists, one in the calf, one in the foot. It marinates the stale air. Weeping carries on by the rivers. You shudder at the power of the dog. No hounds can resist a scratch on the belly. Each morning you resist the bitterness. You ask to be carried into the heat by a different kind of spirit. Time refuses to bend. An enclosure of limestone stands by the tabernacle. Up from the rainbow steps, bats circle the clearing, out through the crawling leaves and into the gasp of light. A devotee holds a starving for the sacred. A skeptic weighs the insistence of belief. Johar Buang says the poet's dove is still wandering. It is looking for the dimensions of God. A soul continues to wait, more than watchmen along the morning. A memory of prayer is itself a prayer. I tether myself to submission. A twinkling is found in the brightness of blue. An inkling is found in a slightness of song. Always I carry the silence. Always I carry the light. Thank you. Noticing light recurring is a common motif shared by all of us today. So the next poem I'll be reading for you is a poem called Love. In the Christian tradition, when one is transformed by the Holy Spirit, there's this notion that it bears fruit, and not, individual fruits, but more like a bundle of grapes that all come together. And these fruits are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So while I was thinking and reflecting on these different characteristics that, one would ideally display all together as a result of being transformed in this particular way, I began writing a series of poems reflecting on each of them, thinking in part of John Donne, the metaphysical poet from 16th, 17th century England, and his series of holy sonnets, but also thinking of, what most people might be familiar with in terms of the Shakespearean sonnets that have certain, syllable numbers, certain rhymes, certain rhythms and cadences. So this is the first poem from that series called Love. Love. What lay outstretched in shades beyond a hill, the silent trickling stains upon a tree, what every whispered prayer could fulfill, that transforms hidden shame to dignity. To deal in glances and not platitudes, a tight embrace and fingers intertwined, to catch the words that tumble raw and lewd, and tame the rudder should it steer the mind. For love is in the poems that we give, the conversations shared in evening rides, the spoons of broth that nourish dreams to live, the tender pixels laid in soft asides, to see the mystery of a cosmic trace within the beauty of another's face. Thank you very much.
Always I carry the silence. Always I carry the light. So I think it's a common thread in today's session, silence and light. So I hope it stays with us, not just in this room, but as we go on with our lives after today's session. For our final reader, we have about 15 minutes before the end of the program, I am reminded, so I think that's plenty of time. And for our next reader, we have Mr. Felix Chong. Felix is the author of 30 books across different genres, from poetry to fiction, from children's picture books to young adult fiction. He has also published 7 graphic novels, 2 of which, Go Keng Sui, a Singaporean for all seasons, and The Showgirl and the Minister were bestsellers on Amazon. Congrats, Felix. He has also written 3 opera librettos, and his works have been widely anthologized and nominated for the prestigious Frank O'Connor Award and the Singapore Literature Prize. How to be you, Felix? His latest volume of poetry is The Mischief of Ordinary Things, which reached number 3 in the Straits Times bestsellers list. So I really love this book. I would say it's quite innovative. Conferred the Young Artist Award in 2000 by the National Arts Council, Felix has been invited to writers' festivals all over the world, such as Edinburgh, Austin, Sydney, Brisbane, and Christchurch. He holds a master's in creative writing and is currently a university adjunct lecturer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my dear friend, Mr. Felix Chong.
Thank you very much. Why does that sound like an obituary? It's the cold in here, isn't it? Well, instead of reading the advertised piece, I decided to change tack and read something else, just to end the event on a slightly light-hearted note. So imagine, if you will, a 6-year-old boy. This poem was written in a voice of a 6-year-old boy, and inspired by my son. I used to bring him to catechism classes, and being the smart aleck, he's now a lawyer, and you know why. Being the smart aleck that he was when he was 6, he used to ask me all these strange questions about Jesus. So I thought of framing some of these questions in a form of a poem. Catechism 101. Dada, if you don't shave for 600 days, will you look like Jesus? If Jesus can do everything, can he count to infinity and 300,000,023? When Jesus walked on water, was it like those guys we saw at Surfers Paradise? Are there a lot of people called Jesus? How come he doesn't look the same in all the pictures? Was Jesus naughty, and that's why he had time out on the cross? Thank you very much. Okay, if you could indulge me, I'll just read one more. It's titled Meditations. That's the one that is advertised. So it's not false advertising. It's the one that is up there on the screen. So for me, as a writer, I often have this conflict because nobody in my family, either on the mother's side or my father's side, was ever a writer. So I was this mutation, this thing that happens to be good in writing. So I thought, maybe it was meant to be a gift. But did he give me the gift for a purpose? Was it to praise him? And I struggled with this conflict for many years because I'm supposed to write in praise of him, but I don't, and I can't, and I won't. So I'm not sure, what am I supposed to do with this gift of writing? So this is titled Meditations. Father, my words kneel before you, having nowhere to go. When I pry the palms of my poems, I do not recognize them. They do not leave marks, cutting roads for direction. They have neither the grace nor light of your psalms. I must have gotten it all wrong. Though I can't remember when the writer became more urgent than the writing, the tool more needed than the task. Father, I am bereft and coming undone. I need to unlearn and I need to be dumb, for I have nothing left on my tongue. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Felix, for such a moving poem. So, Buddha in Vivo City and Jesus Christ having a time out. So, those are the key insights, or what I will remember from today's session. Yeah, joking aside, of course, I mean, this afternoon has been very enriching for me and enlightening as well. So I think we have a few minutes to ask a question from our dear readers. First, could we ask you, all of you, to come and stand here? So we have a Miss Universe question. May I request the readers to come forward? Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you, you can, copy from each other. What inspires you to write poems?
We all talking about the more or less the same thing, peace, love, and meditation. So that is the best thing, and that's the way we have to go forward.
Not a writer, but what I find in poetry, which I imagine is what a lot of you aim to do, is finding different words that speak to people, almost like giving them prayers that are more relatable. So we have our written prayer, and there's holiness in that. Sometimes it's difficult to relate to, and so the poetry that I think all of us read today, there's an element in there that just I can understand that, I can relate to it, I can relate to higher power from it. So I hope that's what inspires you, because that's what it makes me feel.
Well, actually, I'm an artist in a way. So I also do painting. I have a community singing as well, choir. I also organize this thing. And also I double with poetry. So any kind of forms, from colors to words. So that's why I like to play with words as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a religious person or man. I'm not a man of the clergy, so I don't preach. So I guess I'm just finding a different way to which to express my words, thoughts, and aspirations.
Okay, to be frank, just now I mentioned this my first attempt. Okay, in fact, I recall back during was courting my wife 25 years ago. Okay, I do write simple poem to impress her. Okay, so today this was my first attempt actually to use religious studies and create a poem. So it inspired me to move further, and it gave me the funds of doing that. I think I will continue to do more.
Yes, keep at it. Yeah. Well, for me, I didn't choose poetry. Poetry chose me. And even if I were to write children's picture books or graphic novels, it was always poetry as a medium of expression. So it is very much poetically driven all the time. So it's in me. I can't get away from it.
Oh, very well said, Felix. I resonate with that. For me, poetry also came as a way of healing. And it continues to, for me, to connect the inner world with the outer world. And I feel that that resonance which I find in words helps me connect with and see the world in a different light, and also helps me understand my own self better in the larger scheme of things. So I'm so grateful for this beautiful genre of poetry and whatever it has given me. Yeah.
I think in that spirit, and building on what Shilpa you said, I mean, I'm reminded of the quotation by a famous poet, I think it was Auden or Eliot, maybe Auden, who said that poetry is a raid on the inarticulate. Yeah, which if we think about poetry and faith, right, I mean, it's especially apt, right? If we're gesturing towards that transcendence, I mean, whatever name we might call that power in that sense. And so is there something in poetry that allows us to bridge that divide, to escape those boundaries, right? And I mean, last quotation, I thought of, His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he says, "My religion is kindness." Right? And isn't that something that we can all relate to as well, right? Like, whichever faith tradition we subscribe to, like, if our religion can be kindness, then perhaps we can get beyond the crises of today.
No pressure. I really appreciative of all the wisdom that's been shared. I think for me, a lot of the poems come from a pit inside of me, maybe a pit that strains toward, kind of yearning. Sometimes it's a place where I'm trying to work through, naughty moral questions. And poetry is one genre that is comfortable with ambiguity, is comfortable with contradiction, is comfortable with a little bit of, kind of coalescing of different strands of thinking and different ideas. Sometimes I see this as maybe one difference between poetry and, let's say preaching or homily or something that's more didactic, that is more focused on kind of correctness of why, we believe certain things in our communities, whereas poetry can provide a little bit more of an expansive way to engage with some of these ideas. So that would be my answer.
Thank you so much, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to our readers. That brings us to the end of the program. Thank you, Poetry Festival Singapore, especially Eric, the festival director, Shilpa, Waikit, and the entire team, Charlotte, our interns. Thank you very much. So see you again next year.